Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thanks for tuning in to the Two Fit Podcast, hosted by the Two Fit guys, Jake and Josh. Now, Two Fit, by definition, is actively pursuing a state of health and well-being beyond perceived limitations. So, if you are looking to push the boundaries of performance mentally, physically, and everywhere in between, then you have come to the right place. On the Two Fit Podcast, we will be interviewing and having fireside chats with renowned experts from doctors and strength and conditioning coaches to athletes and entrepreneurs. Our goal is to extract tools and tricks of the trade that you can implement, whether you're a world-class athlete, weekend warrior, entrepreneur, or grinding out the 8 to 5, all in order to assist you on your journey to becoming Two Fit.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Two Fit Podcast. And we're here today with Di, the Moose Manuel, and just an extremely accomplished man, author, blogger, coach, CrossFit athlete, successful dad and wife. I mean, dad and wife. Dating his wife is what I saw on there. Yeah, successful dad and husband. He just told me that there's no redos in life, so I guess we're gonna have to leave this in there in the intro now. So, but Di, we're happy to have you on, and the moose is loose, and we're giving him free reins of your radio waves today. So, Di, thanks for being on, man.
Thanks, Jake and Josh. I mean, you guys, I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with some of the people in your tribe. You know, I've been listening to some of your podcasts and checking out what you guys are doing online and offline. And I got to say, you know, you guys are pretty inspiring. So thanks for the opportunity. It's really cool to connect with you both.
And we appreciate it.
Appreciate it for sure.
So I did want to ask, where did Moose come from? Where did that nickname originate?
Well, it sort of happened. A good friend of mine, Patty, or Greg Patterson, he's was really the dude that helped bring CrossFit to Canada. You know, he opened up, I think it was the 4th CrossFit gym globally, and it was the one that opened up here in Vancouver, Canada. And that was back in like 2000, maybe it was early 2005 or late 2004. So it was pretty early on in the whole CrossFit evolution. And anyways, I sold him some gear because my background in business was as an equipment retailer. And I sold him some dumbbells and some benches, you know, some basic free weight stuff. Because back then, you know, CrossFit wasn't a Rogue. It wasn't an Again Faster or all these other guys that were out there. And so I was important stuff. And anyways, long and short of it all was, you know, I was a gym guy, and I was like, you know, periodization, supersetting, looking at myself in the mirror, doing some bicep curls, and this CrossFit thing came to town, and he's like, yeah, so this is what we're doing, this is how we do it, and I'm like, oh, it sounds like a boot camp to me, man. Like, and so I kept putting it off. I was like, no. And then the movie 300 came out. And yeah. we all remember the movie 300, and Jones's coaching and some of the methodologies there were very similar to CrossFit, and so I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go try the baseline. Let's go check this thing out. And I just went in for the basic baseline testing, and I got spanked.
Really?
It was like Tabata squats. It was like a med ball run. And, you know, the typical fitness testing they do for a lot of these intakes to establish a baseline. And I was like, dude, here I'm at this fitness guy that thought I was pretty fit, and I just got spanked, you know? Yeah. And he's got a picture of me dry heaving up against a chain link fence, you know? And Patty's awesome. So anyways, long and short it was that I went for the 1 mile run, and I run like a moose, okay? And Patty was very quick to point that out. And he's like, Moose, get going, you know? And anyways, and the name stuck. It just sort of stuck. And then I got into blogging back in 2007, and I was looking for things that were unencumbered.
Yeah.
And I originally started as Moose is Loose. And so the moosesloose.com, moosesloose.ca were both my domains. And that's sort of how I started my blogging. And Coach Moose sort of evolved from that. And it's been a nickname that's just stuck. And it's hilarious now because I get tagged. Anytime somebody sees a moose and they're familiar with me, I get tagged all over the place. It's like, oh, check out this moose. Oh, here's another YouTube video of a moose getting hit by a truck. Hey, Di, check it out. You know, so it's been pretty entertaining. But it's been great. Yeah, I like to think I don't run like a moose anymore, but no, I do. I'm a saunterer, and I'm not light-footed. Otherwise, my name would be Gazelle. So that's the deal. It's the cards I was dealt, man.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good story. So is CrossFit part of your story? Because I know, like, I've seen some of the pictures and some of the articles you've written. You have that image of you as a teenager. You said you were kind of, you loved just eating food and kind of being lazy. So, I mean, I'm interested to hear kind of your personal journey as far as that goes to where you are now.
Well, yeah, I don't come from fitness. So I know in the past, a lot of people in the fitness industry in particular, like if you look at the majority, a lot of them were athletes. They were people that had come from sports and have always been active and fit and just doing stuff, like moving their bodies. And I came from a very different background. I was at the age of 9, I started to put weight on just based on lifestyle choices at the time, and my spheres of influence as well at the time just weren't, fitness wasn't a focus. So it wasn't a focus of mine. And by age 14, I was classified as morbidly obese. And for those that may not be familiar with, what does that mean? From a medical perspective, it basically means you've got a BMI of 40 or more. Okay. And at age 14, you can imagine a doctor's looking at your mom and he's like, yeah, guy's morbidly obese. This is not good, Wow. And at the time, I had all the typical stigmas that are attached to people in that state of unhealth, and I was quite depressed and withdrawn. And my way of consoling myself was obviously playing video games, watching movies, and eating. That was my comfort. And I had to make some hard changes. And by age 15, I had just hit rock bottom, at least from an emotional and psychological standpoint. As much as, my parents are fantastic people. They're very accomplished business people and, very inspiring on that. And they've been great role models. But from a health standpoint, they weren't, And so I had to seek outside help and find some other people that I could basically ask for help from. And I made some changes. I literally just said, enough's enough. It's either I'm going to kill myself, quite literally, or I'm going to fix this health issue that I'm dealing with. And fortunately, I went with the latter. And literally in about 18-month span, 20-month span, I lost the weight. And it also kickstarted me into puberty. Because at that point, I obviously low testosterone levels, and just I wasn't doing myself any favors. So when you hear about people that are in these teens that are overweight, it's like, man, the best thing they can do is start exercising, because at least that's going to get the hormones more regulated and get things happening. And fortunately for me, it did that. I hadn't hit puberty yet, so it kickstarted that phase, and so that test boost along with the training I was doing and the diet that I was taking on, and man, so I shot up about a foot, but I also leaned out and I put on a lot of muscle, and I haven't really looked back since. I've been in states of unhealth since then, but never to that level, that drastic level again. And so it gives me a different level of empathy when I'm working with people. Listen, I totally get what it's like to be in that state where you have zero momentum. You just, all you want to do is nothing. It's really hard to get motivated to do anything when everything is hard. And so how do you get that first step off the couch, as they say? And that's what I really specialize in, is just helping people make those choices that matter most in life. And how do you sustain that choice day after day after day?
Di, did you, so when you made that decision to kind of make a change, did you have a mentor or anyone that you could turn to help you out with workouts or diet, or did you just kind of dive into it yourself?
Well, and this is, I always like to date myself. So I'm 39 now, and you can imagine back, this is, quite a while ago, that I made these initial changes. There wasn't no Google, there was actually no internet, not the way that we understand it today.
No bodybuilding.com or T-Nation or.
Yeah, there was none of that. Yeah. So what did I do? Well, I went to the library. Yeah, there's these buildings that you can get books from. And,
do those still exist?
Yeah, I know. And I always joke about that with my kids. I'm like, yeah. So this is what I had to do back in the day. You know, like I didn't
Here's
have
my
an
library
iPad.
card. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went and I got books on fitness and nutrition. And I was also fortunate that at the time there was we had one gym in our town that was fairly new, and my parents, realizing that I wanted to make these changes, they originally bought me a bike. So I started mountain biking for a summer, and literally, like, I was at there cycling 2-3 hours a day minimally, and really focused on making some changes, especially with my nutrition. So after that summer, they were more than happy to invest in other ways for me to continue this passion that obviously I was chasing. And so they got me a gym membership. And fortunately for me, some of the guys that played on the school as well as the rep team for hockey, in my town I grew up in, they were more than happy to also give me a hand. And some of the older guys at the gym and the owner, everyone was willing to help. It's really incredible. I think it's a big thing just we often forget is that people like to help people, but you have to give them the opportunity to, and you have to be humble enough to say, hey, can you help me? And I was just fortunate when I extended my hand, there was a lot of people there that were willing to extend it back and literally pull me along and guide me a bit. And so that really impacted me a lot at that age. And I've had that same drive in myself ever since then to want to pay back and really give back to people and help them the same way that I was helped when I was that age.
Yeah, so I want to go back to what you were saying, that you specialize in helping people find that first motivational step to get off the couch. And it seems like in your case, you said it was almost like you hit rock bottom. It was either die or I actually start getting fitter and healthier. So when people, if they haven't reached that rock bottom, because obviously this is a common trend in America today, and especially in our kids and teenagers.
Yeah.
What do you tell those people? Say if they have hit rock bottom or haven't, what is that motivational step to get them off the couch?
Yeah, it's a conversation I have often, and I write about it quite frequently or talk about it. And I think the first thing is realizing that there is a finality in that idea of rock bottom. When I say that, it's like the basement, right? Unless you get an excavator and you start digging deeper, it's typically you are at the bottom. It's not going to get any worse than where you're at right now. And just, you have to accept that, okay, this is where I'm at right now. This is my starting point. Now what? And I was, for me, it was like a fork in the road. It was like, I either go left or I go right. And I don't like where that direction's going. So I better figure out something, or else I got to just accept my current state and be okay with that. And I wasn't okay with it. And I think people have to get really honest with themselves, literally take personal inventory, both from an emotional standpoint and psychological standpoint, but also from a physical standpoint. And really understand, well, what's the type of life I want to lead? What's the lifestyle I want? And start to design that. And not only with their mind, but then start to take actions to realize that painted picture, if you will. And, you'll hear a lot of motivational speakers and personal development speakers often talk about the why. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek, he's great, especially from a business leadership standpoint. It's phenomenal what he talks about. And he's very, very on point when he talks about that internal emotional motivation that really drives us to do the things that we do. And understanding your why, like what is that purpose? And I often talk to people, especially the main people that tend to read my stuff, they're typically late 20s to late 40s, and it's almost an even split of men and women. And these are people that are in that phase of life where they've become very career focused. They've started to settle down in life. They're getting the homes, the cars. They're having kids, and they've realized that they've put all this effort into all these other areas of life, but they've let their health. They're focused on themselves. Their fitness, their health has gone on the back burner for a lot of years. So all of a sudden, they had a metabolism that just allowed them to get away with a lot. Right. But they also had an active lifestyle prior to getting into that mode of life. And all of a sudden that's gone on the back burner. So they put on this extra weight. They start to feel down on themselves. And we all know that when your hormones get out of whack, there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in our body. And it's really hard to regulate that if you don't have proper nutrition, you have good fitness, you know, you're getting adequate sleep, you're drinking enough water. There's all these little basic things that we can do, like maintaining the car. But we forget about it. We just don't focus on it. No one's talking about it. And so it's when I engage people in these conversations, it's like, hey, you know, you're 40 years old now. When you're 60 and your kids are out of the house and they're starting to have their own kids, and you're becoming a grandparent, what are you planning to do when you're not working? Like, what do you want? And most people tell me, well, I want to travel. I want to be able to hang out with my kids and their grandkids, you know, like, or children. And I want to be active. I want to be mobile. And I'm like, well, what are you doing today to ensure that that's a reality 20 years from now? Well, I'm not doing much. I'm like, well, you better figure something out, you know, like, let's talk about this. Let's find a plan that's going to work with where you're at right now, and we'll do it in little stages, move along the way. But you have to get from that place of I should, or I could, or I would, to I want, you know, and I'm excited to be. And it's that frame of mind that you really have to try to shift people to get into, and it just happens through conversation.
Yeah, and that one decision, you know, to kind of get off the couch and change your life really snowballed into what you do now. I mean, led you down the path of coaching. And what was kind of that next step once you, say, got into your 20s? Once you had made the change, did you know that, okay, I'm going to be in a world of health and fitness and nutrition for the rest of my life? This is what I want to do.
Yeah, initially I grew up outside of Toronto in Ontario. There's the other side of Canada, and when I graduated high school, I had an opportunity to apply to go to university in BC, and for me it was sort of that long shot, but it was really excited about the idea of getting out of province, or, you know, like you in the States, get out of your state and your home state, because I wanted to really get away from the community that I grew up in, because there was still a stigma attached to me. You know, like I had to date up. Okay, so when I say date up, I had to go up a grade or two to find girls that didn't know who I was or what I was like previously, you know, because to a lot of my social friends, I was still considered that short, fat guy, right? And it was just really fun. But, you know, it's high school, right? Like, it's high school. So, hey, that's okay. I started hanging out with the older kids, a couple grades.
You weren't in the band or anything, right?
No, I was in band up until grade 9. And then I made some changes, and I didn't play the trumpet anymore.
It was a required class, right?
And I made some changes, and so when I got the opportunity to apply out of province and literally go across the country I love Vancouver because it's just, I get the best of all worlds. It's just a beautiful place to be, and so I left everything behind, literally packed up a suitcase and got into university. But I started in the sciences, and after a year I realized it wasn't my cup of tea, and I needed something else, and I switched over after a year of just sort of mucking around and rock climbing and doing martial arts and working out. I basically took a year off of school to figure out what I needed to do, and then I went back for philosophy and English literature, which is not in the fitness space. And but meanwhile, I was doing I was working as a trainer, and I was doing so much stuff in the fitness space. But I was like, man, I can't make a career of this. I got to really go back to school and do something else, you know, And I kept fighting that desire to want to be in the fitness industry full time, and thinking that, no, I got to do this. I got to make my parents proud. I got to do what everybody else is doing. You know, like, you know, you got to realize this was over 20 years ago, and back then the fitness industry wasn't what it is today, and so I was fighting that status quo that just people don't become trainers full time. You know, it's something you do part time to sort of supplement what you do in real life, and because it's a passion project, right? And I just said, forget it, I'm going to go for it. And I happened to get into selling fitness equipment part time while I was going to school. Realized I had a knack for sales. I really enjoyed it because I was able to talk to people about fitness and health and wellness and share my story and get them started on programs. And I'd sell them gear, and away we go. And 20 years later, it was 18 years later, I worked in that industry for a long time, and I became a founder of a company. We grew it to 8 retail locations in Western Canada and a couple commercial B2B divisions and online and everything. And as of this past July, I left that all to pursue some other passions which I had, which included, you know, just really connecting with people on a larger scale, you know, outside of my comfort zone of Vancouver. And the online space allowed me to do that.
And you had been online for a while, right? Like 5 or 6 years at that point.
Yeah. I've been online since 2007. That's when I started blogging, and there's been lots of variations on my blog. Obviously, it's sort of morphed into something a bit more, and I every time a new social channel would pop up, I'd just hop on it to try to figure it out and learn it, because I had a big interest in marketing, and just from a personal side, and because for my company, I helped with a lot of the online stuff. So it was something that I was actively engaged with regularly, and I realized that I couldn't espouse my own point of views and opinions under my business, because there wasn't necessarily a platform for me to do that. And so I started to create my own personal platforms while also running the corporate platforms. And my personal platforms just started to really engage a lot more people. And it's amazing, because the online space, look at us. You're sitting in Texas, I'm sitting in Vancouver, and we're connecting and having a great conversation. And the world is like that now. We can connect with people and cultures and communities all over the place. And it's pretty cool. It really excites me. And that's why I've really dove into that online culture in a much bigger way over the last 2 years. And I realized, hey, man, I've had this book in me for a while, and I wrote that book, and came out in January, and it's just, I had to go all in. I've got to go all in. And my wife is a big proponent for that too. She shares the same sort of passions that I do. She was always jabbing at me in the ribs saying, hey, just let's do this. And, I'm the dad, I'm the hunter-gatherer of the family. I'm in career mode, I'm building a business, and I'm like, I don't know if we should leave this, what happens if this happens and this happens, whatever, we're young enough, who cares, let's go for it. Because I don't want to be one of those guys that's 20 years down the road looking back saying, man, I really wish I'd done that. I don't want to have that regret. And so, hey, here we are now.
Yeah, what I think is funny about it is that you said you felt like you couldn't make a living in the fitness industry, so then you went and became an English and philosophy major, which a lot of people would argue you're not going to make any money there either. But,
I know.
It's cool that you fused both those worlds now. I mean, you're using it, so...
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, my original plan was to be either a teacher or a lawyer. And to be honest, being a lawyer didn't excite me, because I was like, no, that's just not going to work for me. And then being a teacher, I was like, oh, do I really want to commit my life to teaching? I love teaching, but I don't want to make it a full-time thing.
Yeah, not in that way.
Plus, teachers are grossly underpaid, I feel. And I got into business, and away we went.
So, Diane, I love your website, by the way. I think it's just a great layout. And obviously, we'll link to everything in the show notes, but it's diemanuel.com. And I like how you have it broken down into your 5 pillars, and I love those pillars. I'd like to explore those a little bit.
Sure.
And I know the 5 are, fitness, family, finances, faith, and fun. And if we just want to highlight a little bit kind of your thought process on kind of each pillar, and how you go about writing about those and helping others through each one of those avenues.
Sure. Well, thanks. My book's The Whole Life Fitness Manifesto, and it's basically an outline of my own personal manifesto that I live and breathe, and just it's how I live my life. It's my personal Whole Life Fitness Manifesto, and I've always sort of touched on that in everything that I've done in my life over the last 20 years, but I hadn't ever put it down to paper. I touched down on certain of these pillars. So as you mentioned, I love alliteration. Okay. It's that creative writer in me, and that English lit guy. It's this idea of trying to make things very easy to remember. And so the 5 pillars is really just a picture. And I sent you guys a copy of my book, and you'll notice that I have a picture in there that shows a house. And my idea is I look at my life like a house, and I need a rock solid foundation, upon which I want to build the life that I want to lead. But if that foundation isn't rock solid, everything above it is liable to, I like to look at life like a house. And, there's storms. You guys are very familiar with that. You're in Texas, okay? So you get some storms down there. And if your house isn't rock solid and weatherproof and everything else, you face the wrath of the storm, and you got to deal with the repercussions. So my foundation in life has always been, at least since I made those changes at 15, has been health. Health is the focus. That's what I build my life on. And my walls are fitness, family, finances, and faith. And then I have an overarching roof of fun. So, so there's 5 F's there on top of that foundational piece. And for me, it allowed me to break down what were the areas that I wanted to focus on in my life that mattered most. Fitness, obviously, being an extension of health. It's my way that I maintain my health, or at least improve on it. Family is a big piece for me. I'm an active dad. I joke about it, but I'm dating my wife. We're always dating. And I think married couples should strive for that sensation of always be dating one another and always learning about each other and growing. And so family is a big focus. I spend a lot of time in that space. And then finances is really just that means to an end. For us to lead the lifestyles we want to lead in the global economy today, we do have to earn an income. We have to have some money to do the things we want to do. It's just, I wish I could barter all day long. I wish I could just say, hey, I'll help you get fit and you give me a car lease, okay? Yeah. You pay for my rent, whatever. And so it's just having a good understanding that if that isn't under control, that it leads to a lot of other stresses in life, which can affect the other pillars, right? The other walls of that home. And faith is just that idea that there's something beyond you. And for me, it's always giving back to community. It's just being respectful that I'm put on this planet to do something. I think we're all meant to do something great. What is that? And, Live Your Legend, their website, fantastic. There's a lot of great sites that are dedicated to that space of really giving back and building a life of awesome, right? And so that's my sort of faith pillar. It's not denominational. It fits into anyways. For some people, it's religion. Whatever that is for you, how do you give back, And so there's these 4 walls. And we have to recognize, like an engineer, you can recognize weaknesses. So if your finances are out of whack, well, that's going to stress the rest of the household, right? It's going to stress the other, that overarching roof of fun is liable to come crashing down if your finances and family are out of whack. If those walls are termite infested, you got to do something about it, man. You got to get an exterminator in there. And that's where you have to seek outside mentors or professionals to come in and help you deal with those weaknesses. And so it's been a really simple model for me to explain my life, because people often ask, well, what do you do on a daily basis? I'm like, hey, man, this is what I do. These are the areas I focus on. And everything else sort of extends from those. But these are the big pillars. These are what are most important to me. And I think everybody's got different pillars. That's cool. We might have some similar ones, but we might have some different ones. And that's whatever those are. You just figure it out, and it creates a nice filter for you, too, to live your life, right? Have you heard of the book Essentialism?
I have not, no.
Not heard of that one.
Yeah, very cool book. Greg Cowan, I think is his last name. It's like I won't be able to pronounce it. You have to look it up. But Essentialism is really cool because it talks about this idea of how to create endless productivity in your life. But it's really by looking at what is essential to you and what is essential to your life and what you're looking to do. Because I think we're so busy today and we're inundated with just information and messages and people now. We're constantly accessible. So, and you guys are in that space too. You get opportunities thrust upon you all day long. How do you say yes to one and then no to another? And it's having a very clear understanding of what matters to you most and being able to have that honest dialogue with not only yourself, but also those that are coming to you and explain, what, this just isn't a fit. And here's why. Mm-hmm. But thank you, and once you have that clear filter, man, it just makes making decisions that much less stressful and clear cut. And so you can focus on those areas that are most important to you with greater zest and more focus. And honestly, you get a better return on that time being invested now because it's focused, right?
Right. I love that. What I'm curious about is because the fitness, family, finance, faith, all those are the foundation. But where does the fun come in? To me, that almost seems like the cheat meal in all this. It's like I'm gonna work hard for these 6-7 days, and then I'm gonna have that one big cheat meal where I'm just gonna go ham on.
Yeah, fun for me is like I want to have fun in all aspects of my life, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I paint the picture of a rooftop over this household, and it's overarching. It covers everything. If you're not enjoying your life and you're not smiling every day, you're not laughing every day, and there's something missing, right? And and it's a great stress reliever. I could go on and on about all the positive benefits, not only from a hormonal standpoint that's elicited in us when we laugh and when we smile, and what happens from a psychological standpoint, but it just makes all these other areas that much more enjoyable. I mean, Who wants to talk about finances? I'm not an accountant. I hate talking about money, man. But it's a necessary thing. And if you can try to make it fun, you're going to be less likely to just ignore it and try to avoid it, right? Because I think a lot of us do that. It's like, man, we wait until we get that third notice and we're like, oh shit, I really should open that. And it's like, if I ignore it long enough, maybe it'll go away. And that's not the case, man. You got to acknowledge it and just deal with it. And I think there's lots of aspects in our lives that we just try to ignore it. But eventually it gets to a point where that thorn becomes infected, right? That area around where that thorn was sticking out, you got to deal with it, man. And what are you going to do about it? So, fun for me, and you mentioned cheat meals. Like, I used to believe in that. I don't anymore. Like, to me, it's lifestyle. If I want to eat a piece of cake, I'm going to eat a piece of cake, and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to love it. I'm going to cherish that moment where I'm eating that piece of cake. But I own it. I chose to eat it. Right. And I think, I forget what the movie was. I think it was Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, where he makes a joke of that whole idea, but, people keep pointing fingers at fast food restaurants, and then he goes and stands outside McDonald's for like 6 hours, and he's like, you see, nobody came out and held a gun to me and told me to go in, just to prove a point that, we're people of choice.
Right.
We choose to do the things that we do every day, and once you acknowledge that and own up to that fact, you can't defer blame. You just got to own it. Like me, I owned it. I used to blame everybody for my state of unhealth when I was that morbidly obese teen. It was never my fault, because it was easier that way. It was easier to pass blame to everybody else. But at the end of the day, there was one person looking back at me in the mirror, and I had to fess up. Hey, shit, I chose to eat that tub of ice cream, I chose to veg out and eat anyways, I won't go down there, but it was my personal choice, my own doing that got me there.
So, Di, you clearly been living this way a long time. But do you do a daily review of these 5 pillars, or do you recommend people to kind of do a daily review just so that it's always in check?
Well, I practice mindfulness every day, and a lot of people, it's a buzzword nowadays. But my manifesto involves 30 minutes of concentrated personal focus every day. It's 15 minutes of movement with purpose, 5 minutes of mindfulness or meditation, 10 minutes of personal development. It's 2% of 24 hours. Everybody's got it. And anytime I meet somebody that says, no, I don't have 30 minutes, I'm like, bullshit. Sorry, you might have to beep that out, but, bull, give me a break. How bad do you want it, man? You told me all these things and things that you're unhappy with, what are you going to do about it? Can you give me 2%? Can you give me 30 minutes a day right now? And if they say no, I'm like, okay, well, when you can, come back and see me. And fortunately for me, no one ever says they can't. They want it bad enough. And for me, during that mindfulness phase, I like to think back on my day, or I like to take stock of what am I going to do today and be mindful of the decisions I'm going to make and the actions I'm going to live. And so I do focus on those areas. I try to touch down on those every day in some level, especially the fitness and the family. Those are big ones. And faith for me is it's all about community and helping others. That's really important to me. So if I can impact one life a day, I can spend quality time with my family every day. I can get a workout or move my body, even just getting out for a good half an hour, 60-minute walk, that's good for me. I feel good. And as far as finances are, it's like, hey, did I manage not to blow all of the money today? Okay, good day. I got some money still in the bank. We're all right. We'll have food on the table. For me, that's cool. And I like to smile every day, man. Every day, I like to remind myself I'm human and connecting with people and having a smile, having a laugh. As they say, shits and giggles, man. It makes the world, I think wars would be much more productively fought if we just told a lot of jokes and tried to understand each other from a humor perspective rather than, animosity perspective. So, but, so that's it. People have to figure out how it works for their lifestyle and how do they fit that in, and then just create a habit around that. And I think that's where most people run awry, right? They don't put enough time into figuring out a way to make it work for them. You guys know, people, we see all these made for TV fitness programs and, buy this DVD, do this, do that. And a lot of time it's very onerous. People have to reinvent their lives to fit this stuff in. I'd rather, fit it into their already existing lifestyle. For me, that's far more successful. It's finding out, well, where do I really have the time to commit to this that's not going to disrupt everything else that I'd love to do already? Mm-hmm. If you can figure that out and get that sort of cascading effect, the likelihood of them succeeding is far greater, at least from my own personal experience. And this is what I see in my own tribe, is that they're much more likely to keep at it. And then there's a big community that they plug into that hold them accountable to doing it, and they can relate to those and empathize with these other people. And that piece is really crucial to the sustainability of everything. And you guys know from the CrossFit communities especially, and this is why I think it's been so fantastic, is it's community. It's literally a platform that provides people a space to connect with others that are in that same mindset. And they hold each other accountable, they uplift one another, they're encouraging one another. I mean, that's why I love CrossFit, especially from the early days. When I first started competing, a guy would finish a WOD, he'd come up to the other guy and start cheering him on. Come on, finish it up. That is awesome. You don't see that in baseball and football. No. You don't see the other team come up and say, "Oh man, great home run." No.
Yeah, that was kind of the genius of CrossFit. It brought basically that high school football locker room feel mainstream.
Mm-hmm. You're bang on, man. Bang on.
Yeah, I also think my sarcastic sense of humor might start more wars than it would help. But people tend not to know when I'm joking or not. I just like to keep like a straight face, and then yeah. So anyhow, I do want to dive kind of more into that 30 minutes a day that you're talking about. So the 15 minutes of moving and then the 5 minutes of mindfulness, I'm imagining, is that just like meditation?
Yeah, it's whatever it is for you. I usually like to tack it on at the end of the 15 minutes of movement. Usually because I give people like AMRAP style body weight based workouts.
Okay.
And, and then obviously we modify to suit anybody's abilities and fitness levels. But especially when I deal with a lot of people that have mobility issues just based on inactivity and not looking after their body. So you have to modify all the time and scale things. But at the end of the day, you're moving your body for 15 minutes solid. And that's where I'm like, man, you've gone from 0 to 15 minutes. This is a big improvement. And then we repeat that daily. But the workouts are always changing. They're always varying, just similar to CrossFit. And that was the one thing that CrossFit instilled in me, was the idea of constantly varied movements and varying up the intensity and really having a very clear understanding of what's intense to you as an individual. Because once you understand where your comfort levels are, you know where those boundaries are, and you know you have to push those to constantly extend those outward.
Yeah. And
working with people to understand that and start to internalize that way of training. And really, I like to empower and educate and then motivate and inspire. But if I can educate you on how to do it, you're going to feel empowered, and you can never use that excuse, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. Because those are excuses we hear all the time in the health space. All the time. I don't know how to do it. I don't have access to equipment. I don't have money for a gym membership. Like, man, the objections I've heard over the last 20 years of being in this industry are ridiculous. It's the same ones. And they're always different flavors of the same excuses.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to create a system that people could use and be successful with. And I call it a gateway program. Because it's lifestyle. You start on a certain day, but it never ends, because you want to live, right? You want to have a nice life? You want to feel good? Okay, well, you're going to have to keep doing this. This is maintenance, all right? And at the very least, you can give me 30 minutes every day. And so the mindfulness piece, I tack on to the end of the fitness, because it's really easy after you've had a good hard workout to lie down on the ground and just focus on your breathing, clear the mind, and just center yourself. And some people will extend that. They'll go 10, 20, 30 minutes. But I say minimum 5 minutes. And there's apps that you can use to help you with that. There's lots of cool tools out there to leverage that time. But that 5 minutes of just grounding yourself and doing nothing, focus on your breath and being one in the moment, it's great. It's hard for most of us that are very connected and also just go, or type A personalities that are just like, bouncing off the walls all the time. But if you can learn to center and ground yourself for 5 minutes, it's fantastic. That once you find that comfort, that space, and then after that, I say, okay, now you're going to do something very positive. I want you to fill the mind for the next 10 minutes with something positive. Whether you're reading a book, you're watching a TED Talk, you're listening to an inspiring podcast, Two Fit Guys, so there you go. Like whatever it is for you. But I want for 10 minutes, concentrated effort and filling your mind with something good. And that's it. You do that every day. It's like your 30 minutes. And I joke, but it's a gateway program because people will commit to the 30 minutes. Okay, I got 30 minutes. Inevitably, after about a month of doing that, they're looking for other things, other ways to extend that period of feeling good because they see the return on that investment of 30 minutes compounded over 30 days or 28 days. And they're like, holy crap, look what I've done in 28 days. Imagine if I actually committed an hour a day to doing this kind of stuff. Holy smokes, what will happen then? And so I see people going into CrossFit, going into running, going into hiking and mountaineering. And I've had people extend off doing things that they thought they'd never do. Just because now they feel educated, they feel empowered, they're now motivated, they have a community to connect with, and they believe in themselves. And once you have that belief in yourself, man, you can do anything.
I think it's great. Diet definitely seems kind of like that gateway drug for living that life. Because even the people like you touched on, it's the same excuses, right? It's either I'm busy or I don't know. And
yes.
They boil down to the same thing of I don't care. And
yes.
I don't care enough. And that 30 minutes and kind of laying it out in these 3 steps, it's something that somebody can do at their office at lunch. It's something they can do before they go to bed. It's something they can do when they wake up. Do you recommend a certain time or it's just like fit it in?
Wherever you can. I've throughout my life, I've had different times where I've found it optimal to do these things. Like there's some days where I like to work out at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There's some days where I'm like, man, I can't do 5 today because I've got a commitment. I better do noon. And, I'm a big believer that you can't manage time. Own up to it, accept that. You can't grab hold of it. You can't control it, but you can control your commitments and you can manage commitments. So what matters most to you to commit every day? And for me, that's where the pillars come in, right? It's like, okay, well, I'm going to block time for family, and you can't touch that time. I'm going to block time for fitness because that's for me. That's for me to feel good and to reinforce the health. And I block in the most important pieces into my calendar, and those don't get shifted. I don't break those commitments because they matter and they're very important to me. And people have to accept that, and they do, because I tell them, I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I've got a family commitment. I'm not breaking that. And if you got a problem with that and you don't understand why, screw yourself. Death by burpees, okay? But I never run into that. People understand that. They respect that. And so it's really being honest with your own calendar. And I think a lot of us have wasted time. When I say wasted time, it's just time that we're doing things just to fill a void, and we're not mindful of those choices and those habits. A lot of people, they look at people nowadays, in the evenings, what do? They've got Netflix on, nothing wrong with Netflix, but they've got it on TV. And what else are they doing at the exact same time? Well, they've got a mobile or a tablet in their lap, and they're surfing the web, checking Facebook. They're doing all these things at the same time. They're not really focused on any one thing, but they're just zoned out. And they'll spend hours doing that every day. Well, what if you actually I'm not saying give that up, but what if you carved out half of it to do something a bit more productive for yourselves that's going to make you feel a lot better? Why don't we try that, and just commit for a month. Just please try. I don't care what time of day works for you. Just figure out a time that does and block it in and stay committed to that commitment to yourself.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question about you and your day. And because it seems like, man, you got content just coming out of your ears. You got the blog, the book now, the 99 workouts without gym equipment, Functional Fitness Daily. I read that you have a column in the Vancouver paper, and there's probably a few others that I'm leaving out. But man, where do you find that time, and how do you structure to actually just get that, continually put that content out there?
Like I said, I commit time to my calendar that I don't break. Like I don't break those commitments, at least 99% of the time. So if I know when my windows of productivity are. I'm an early morning guy. been a 5 a.m. guy for, I don't know, since I was like 18, 19 years old. I've been waking up at 5 a.m. And I typically go to bed around 11 at night, between 10 and 11. I function really well on 6 hours. That's me, and there's people out there that say, 6 hours isn't enough. Well, for me, it's plenty. Like I feel really good at 6, and I've just been wired that way. So you look at people that get 8 hours a night sleep, that's great. That's fantastic. That's what you need. No problem. If that's what you actually need, then great. But if you think about it, extrapolate 2 hours a day over 365 days, I get an extra month of productivity. It's a month. It's 30 days extra I get because of those extra 2 hours, And my best time, most productive, is from 5 to 8 a.m. in the morning. I get so much done in those 3 hours because my family's asleep. The world, quite frankly, is asleep to me at that point. And I know that I'm most creative between those hours. And so that's typically when I'm creating a lot of content, and I'm writing and connecting or figuring out ways of trying to help people. And that's my window of opportunity to do that. And then throughout the rest of the day, I have other commitments where I'll fit in my fitness. I got family time, and I'm doing some community stuff and whatever it might be. I'll fit those in throughout the rest of the day. And that's typically how I work, and it's worked really well for me. But people have to find their own rhythm, right? And sometimes you have to do a little bit of reprogramming. You just have to break some habits that weren't, fulfilling, that weren't producing for you, and recognizing that and saying, okay, well, what do we have to do here to make some changes, and how do we make those changes sustainable, and just getting right with it and going for it. But you have to stay to the path, right? I think that's the problem. Like, it's consistency. You guys know this. You're both really fit dudes, and you're in the fitness space, and you're working with people in that space. And the one thing about anybody that's healthy and fit, what do they do to stay that way? Well, they're consistent with their commitment. They're doing it every day. They're committed to that, and over a long period of time, that compounds and gives you a great return.
I feel like kind of that underlying theme that we have going is that people want to be productive, they want to be healthier, they want to know what to do, and it's like when they're not doing it, it's kind of always out there, like, I'd love to be doing that, and it's still excuses upon excuses, and they feel like they don't know how to tackle it, but. And I bring this book up a lot because it's so relatable, and it ties back into a lot of things one of my golf coaches used to tell me all the time. And but the book is Extreme Ownership, and it's about, basically, Jocko's theme is discipline equals freedom. And if you build in your life these disciplines of the fitness and nutrition and fun and family, they don't have to be things that hold you back or take up your time. They actually create more freedom because they are there. They're the pillars throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your year. And the reason I say that kind of reminds me of stuff my golf coach used to bring up was we'd be standing on the tee in practice on a practice night, and he would say, you don't need to worry about the hazards. You need to quit worrying about hitting the ball in the hazard if you are, because you should be grateful for them. The hazards are there to show you the fairway. And if they weren't there, you just have a big open field.
I love that.
And that's so relatable because that's the way most people live their lives, is this big open field kind of just running around, you know? And once you build in those disciplines of the waking up early, the routines, it really creates a stress-free environment for you to operate.
I love that analogy. That is really cool. I might have to borrow that, man. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And you're right. It's that whole idea that we never truly appreciate hot if you don't know what it feels like to feel cold, right? And it's understanding that there are extremes, but there's also a whole lot of space in between, and respecting those levels and what it means to you in your life. I like that. It's really cool.
So you're clearly a 5 a.m.er, and you said you get a lot of work done from 5 to 8. What does it look like when you first wake up? Are you kind of out of bed and straight to work and grinding it out, or do you have kind of an early routine you follow?
It's funny. I set my alarm for 5, but 90% of the time, I wake up before it goes off, and I'll get out of bed. I do my usual thing. I'll brew up some coffee, and I'll have a sit down on the computer, and I'll quickly check my emails, see if there's anything pressing I got to deal with, and then I just get right into it. I either am creating some blog content, or I'm writing for, I do a lot of freelance writing, so I'm writing a piece or an article, or I'm researching an article, or I'm getting back to people that have reached out to me. And I do a lot on the social space, because listen, at the end of the day, I'm a big believer. So when you look at my what I do on social media, like with all my different channels, it's really a lot of showing. I don't do a lot of telling. I'm a big believer. I'd rather just show you what I do in a day-to-day basis, and if that inspires you enough to reach out or to do something, awesome. Because I think a lot of it's really easy to tell people what to do, but until they've made a decision that they want to do it, it doesn't matter. And it frustrates people, like I realized that as a personal trainer early on. And I've written about this and shared this, where I wasn't a very successful trainer in the early days because I just didn't get why people just couldn't commit. Like I committed at 15 to making some changes and stuck to it. I'm like, why stop here? Like I gotta fire you. I've already shown you what to do as a client. I can't help you anymore, man. Like I'm not a good trainer for you. I'm not a good fit. And that's why I wasn't a very successful trainer in the early days. I used to just give up on clients all the time because I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand you. I don't know why you're not doing this. And it's because I told you to do this. I told you to eat that. I told you not to eat that. And you know what? At the end of the day, people don't like to be told what to do. They got to come to that as their own decision. So on social, I just like to share what I'm doing. And people see that and they're like, oh man, that's cool. I can do that. Oh, I get that. Yeah, I can do that too. And I find that it creates a better relationship, as well as it's very transparent and open and honest, and people connect with that. And if that works, it works. If it doesn't, well, there's lots of other people out there doing other things. Find something that does and just do it. All right. Like just get out there and be a guy that can say, I just did it versus just do it.
I like that. Did
I answer your question?
Yes, absolutely.
I go off on tangents, man. I'm like that little dog in the movie Up. I don't know if, I got kids, so I watch a lot of Pixar and those kind of movies. And,
that's a great movie.
Well, you remember the little dog with the little voice box, and every time a squirrel runs, squirrel, right? He gets distracted. Well, I'm that dude. Okay, I see a lot of squirrels, and so if I ever my ongoing joke with my family and close friends is like, hey, if I get off on a tangent, just yell at me, squirrel, and I'll know exactly what I got to do. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I know that I personally, Jake and I talk about this a lot. We're usually around like 6 to 6:30 a.m.ers. Nice. Sometime in that, whenever it happens. And, we both have our own morning routines. And so it's really about, I would say 8 o'clock until it's time to like sit down and work. But I've been debating, should I wake up even a little earlier, 5:35 and,
well, it's just such a common trend
start
that
the work.
Yeah. And people that we come into contact with and, high performing individuals and successful people, it all seems like they're up earlier and it gets them that like win on the day almost. Cause like it's nice to have the routine. Like you could still do a morning routine and just back it up to, 5 a.m. or, that could even be a break at like 6. I'm sorry. I'm just like rambling through my own thoughts here, but,
I like it.
Kind of wake up, have a little coffee, start your morning routine like 6:30 after you've already, pumped out an article or something like that. And plus, so Jake and I did a half Ironman this past Sunday in Galveston, and
how'd that go?
It was great. It was a lot of fun. It came away with some sore feet, but it was
some sore
the day
egos
was a blast.
Too.
Yeah.
Good for you guys. You know what? I got to just commend you both on that. One of my friends, actually, she's out of Texas as well. She's in San Antonio, Jen Rulon. I don't know if you're familiar with Jen, but I'll make sure to connect you guys because cool. she just did that as well. And I was following along on Snapchat, and holy smokes, what you guys do. I just commend you. I did my first half marathon just recently in Jerusalem, and like literally 3 weeks ago. And dang. My gosh, my Achilles, like, they are still healing right now based on the just the wear and tear on those from the distance. And
well, you have to run that one in Jesus sandals, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I did. I joked about it. I was like, I wore my Scoras, which were, minimalist shoes, and they probably weren't the right footwear, but I didn't know any better, so I did it. And oh my gosh, it was just awful. I was there with a couple other runners, and I did zero training for it other than my CrossFit, and so the heart was great. But I didn't realize the wear and tear actually on the skin, and so with 5 miles left, I was just miserable.
It's amazing what the pavement does to you. It's just,
dude, and it was
we did not train on the pavement.
Oh man, we ran through Old Jerusalem, and it's like, it was the weirdest thing, right?
That's wild.
There, and there's cobblestone, and you got 18-year-olds with machine guns, and it's like, this is the weirdest place me run my first half. But whatever, I'm here. I'm going to enjoy it. And but man, you guys did a half iron, dude. You guys, I just hats off to you guys. That's amazing.
Oh, it sounds like more than I think it is, but yeah, they're fun. I don't know that we'll do a full. I don't know if I'll do a full. Maybe one to knock it off the list, but there are a couple more tries that we want to do this year and kind of get into them. But
yeah, we'll sign you up for the next one. Team 2
you
Fit.
come down to Texas, and there's one in October in Austin. So
oh man, well, Austin's beautiful.
It'd be great weather then too. Fall, football season.
I got to learn how to swim, I guess. No, I often joke I'm not a swimmer, I'm a sinker.
That's the boat I was in. It's just survival. Survive the swim. Wow. Well, it was basically survive the whole thing. So, yeah.
Good for you. But so with your training with that, like, did you switch up to prep for these types of? I mean, there's a lot of time that goes into training and prepping for Ironmans, whether it's a half or a full, it doesn't matter. It's committed. So what do you guys do for that? How did you shift up your schedule to accommodate the training?
We did some more two-a-days, like where we would do our kind of triathlon training in the morning for about an hour, and then like a light weightlifting session in the afternoon. Not every day, two-a-days, but a few days a week. And then every weekend was like a triathlon weekend type thing. Open water swimming. But we kept it pretty minimal. It was like, open water swimming, one sprint work in the pool a week, one sprint work on the track or in the neighborhood, and kind of the same. The bike was just like getting some long rides. So it was good. I mean, I think we both felt pretty solid except for the run. It was just that we did not run long enough or far enough or on pavement. So the joints were like, what are you doing to me?
We didn't run enough like when we were tired, after you're fatigued. And I think the bike just got us. I mean, we have some nice bikes, but the people out there this is their life. And, they're 40 to 60-year-olds who do not look like, frankly, they don't look in shape, but they are just flying by me on these like Ducati looking machines. Mm-hmm. Just like
minimal effort. Yeah. Their legs are barely moving. You're like, how are you pushing that bike?
Man, something is wrong here. Right, but I was like, I don't even care to try to, my ego is in check right now. I'm not trying to catch you. Like, you go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. It was set a pace and just try to hold it. But it was fun. We'll see how the rest go. But
super cool. Good for you guys, man. I commend you on that. That's just awesome.
But we woke up at 4:45 or 5 that morning, and when we got out, that's early. I guess it's earlier we normally wake up, but walking out there and getting your bike set up and walking down this long walk on the sidewalk right off the bay to the dock was just beautiful because the sun was coming up. It was about 7 a.m. and we got in the water at 7:45. And even in that moment, it got me thinking, like, I need to wake up even earlier because, even back in the day when I was traveling, playing a lot of golf tournaments, there were 4:30, 5:30 a.m.s, and I would kind of wake up just whenever I knew I needed to get to the tee, for practice. And I guess ideally, I think it'd be awesome to wake up at a time where you never had to change it so that you were prepared for anything, because if you wake up at 5 a.m., there's rarely going to be an occasion that you have to wake up earlier for an event.
Well, my thing is, I know, Di, you travel quite a bit. So there's nights we're on the road a lot of the time as well. So like just on Tuesday night, we got back at midnight. Then I unload the truck in the rain, and then to wake up the next morning at 5:30 would be kind of rough. I mean, you kind of you probably have your system set to where you're waking up at that time basically no matter what. Is that right? So it doesn't really matter what time you go to bed?
Yeah, well, it's that internal clock. Yeah, it's pretty conditioned. So even if I want to sleep in, it's really challenging for me. Like it's the mind wakes up, right? Like the body might still feel tired, feels a little groggy, but mentally I'm alert and awake and ready to go. So it's that sort of dichotomy that I got this two areas that are fighting one another a little bit, and often the mind gives in, or sorry, it wins over the body. It says, "No, man, you're getting up," and so begrudgingly, my body will do what it's told and crawl out of bed and get at her. And I've just learned when I need to do it. You know, I've got an autoimmune disease as well, so my health is really important, but I'll have days where I feel like dirt, and there are days where I'll schedule in an hour nap, you know, like I just need it to recoup my body, and I'm not afraid to tell it to people, because I hear people tell me all the time, "Oh, I got type 2 diabetes, I got this, I got that." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I got an autoimmune disease, I got no immune system, so what's your problem?" You know. And I don't usually talk about it a lot, because I'm not looking for a pity party. It's something that I deal with. I got it, and whatever. It's the cards I've been dealt, but I'm not going to let it determine how I live my life. You know.
Have you ever heard of Steve Pavlina? Is
No, I haven't.
Old time blogger. I used to read a lot of his stuff in college, and he's still out there. The website looks dated, and but some great content. It's stevepavlina.com.
Okay, cool.
I'll shoot it over to you though. But
yeah, please.
He wrote a lot of long form content, but he wrote one of the best articles that I saved and printed. I still have it, on how to wake up early, and it changed my viewpoint on waking up early.
That's awesome.
And it was the most different approach that you typically hear. And one of the things he touches on is that set your mind to be up early and go practice it. So you would, during the day, practice 4 or 5 times throughout the day. Like you're in bed, you set your alarm, you wake up and you brush your teeth, and you just ingrain this habit, because your willpower in the morning is awful. You know, and it's like when you want to wake up early, everything's telling you it's warm under here. I don't have that much to do at 5:30. And he says, so you're going to have poor decision making when the alarm goes off. So practice when you can have good decision making, and so you can get on autopilot. He also says, when you want to wake up early, and for instance, like Jake mentioned, there are a lot of late nights we have. You would still wake up at 5 a.m. Maybe you only do get 5 hours of sleep, but the next night your body's going to probably want to go to bed by 9:30 or 10. And so you kind of, over the course of a week, this would average out. So your wake up time never changes, but your bedtime might change.
That's cool.
That's a great article. I'll shoot it over to you, and we'll.
I'd appreciate it. That sounds awesome. It's I've got a couple things. I've been working on some articles that are in my drafts. That one I get asked that a lot about my 5 a.m. ritual, and so I've got a post I'm putting together on it. So it'd be neat to cite some other sources of people that have experienced some really good breakthroughs. So that sounds like something I'd love to cite. So thank you. I appreciate that.
We'll be looking forward to that.
Man, you guys, I got to say, I'm loving the conversation. This is awesome. Fantastic. You guys are, well, we're all part of the same tribe, right? Like we're out there and trying to break down walls and build up new ones. So it's awesome.
Yeah, man. Love it. Well, Di, thanks for being on, man. You got anything else?
Oh, well, hey, man, I've got another 28-day phase kicking off here a week Monday. Okay. So the way it works is it's free for people to participate. There's no hidden agenda or cost. Again, I like to make it accessible to everyone. So the Whole Life Fitness Manifesto is open for people to participate in if they want. And the way it works is simple. You opt in, you put your name and email in. You'll have to do some baseline testing for week 0, which is next week. And then they kick off 28 days where they'll get a daily email that outlines a workout either with or without equipment, depending on where you have access or what you don't have access to, as well as some mindfulness and personal development prompts. And you also get access to a private Facebook group before the new website goes up and live, where we'll have more of a community. But for now, we're just leveraging Facebook, which everybody's on. Well, at least most people, 1.6 billion of them. So it seems to work for everyone. And so I'm always welcoming people to come into the tribe, whether you're already committed to other sports or activities or programs, no problem. Use this to supplement when you don't have time to get your daily fix. And at the very least, it's a fun, enjoyable experience, and it's ongoing. It's always happening. And so every 5 weeks we do another 28-day phase. So even if you miss this one, don't worry, there'll be another one. So just opt in to be kept in the know when the next one happens.
Cool. And then what is the retreat you have, the Discovering Whole Life Fitness Retreat?
Well, after a lot of years of stumbling around in my own life, and I'm still stumbling, just so you know, but I've just learned how to use a lot more tools, and I'm a big believer that you can design the life that you want. So we have a Life by Design retreat, which is on Cortez Island here in beautiful British Columbia. It's a fairly remote island, but it's the Hollyhock Center, which is world renowned. So a lot of thought leaders, as well as motivational speakers and other people will come to this center annually and lead retreats anywhere from 3 to 5 days. So we have a 5-day Life by Design. It's the Whole Life Fitness Manifesto Life by Design course, and it's a fully immersive 5-day retreat. And we literally look at the pillars, the 5 pillars that we've laid out, and provide people with tools and really an opportunity to create a construct for them to develop the lifestyle that they want. And there's more information available on my website. You just visit there, click the icon, and it'll take you to the Hollyhock page, which has more details on the actual course and information on how to participate in that.
Awesome. What are the dates on that?
That is May. Well, sorry, I was going to say May long weekend. It may not be a May long weekend to you, but it's May long weekend in Canada. It's the last weekend of May.
Okay.
And so that's like May 27th to June, I think 1st or 2nd. It's a 5-day, and it's beautiful. Just got to check out Hollyhock, their website, and you'll get a feel for what this place is like. And you're unplugging from the rest of the world when you're there. So it gives you plenty of opportunity to fully immerse yourself in the learning and the experience, and to really take a lot from it.
That's what everybody needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So dive
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. So if people want to follow you and be able to read more of your content, and they can visit DaiManuel.com, right?
Yes.
DaiManuel.com. And then your Twitter handle and
all of them.
Facebook.
That's the cool thing about having a name. Dai, just so you know, is Welsh for David. It actually means David. Manuel is a Portuguese last name. I know I'm a mutt. I'm a mix of a whole pile of stuff. But the nice thing with Dai Manuel is I haven't met another one. And ever since Google came out, it's been really cool because I'm really easy to find if you know how to spell it. And every social media channel I've joined, even including Snapchat, it's just my name. So I'm really accessible and easy to connect with once you know how to spell my name. And so I let everybody know, you want to reach out, want to chat, hey, connect with me. I'm all over the place, so I'm definitely accessible.
Cool. Dai, this has been great, man. We really had a good time having you on the show.
Well, thank you guys. This was awesome. And hopefully I'll connect in real life soon when I make my way down to Texas later this year. And it would be great to connect, get a workout in, and some shits and giggles, you know?
Yeah.
Hey, man. When you get here, let us know. We'll go for that open water swim.
Oh, well, maybe I'll meet you after this one. I'll come and, I'll bring the towels. Don't worry about it.
That
Awesome.
works. That works.
All right, Dai. Well, thanks, man. Yeah, have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
All right, man. Until next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the 2Fit Podcast. This episode is brought to you by 2Fit USA, the sports nutrition company owned and operated by the 2Fit guys. To show our appreciation for you tuning into the podcast, we would like to give you a 10% off your entire order at 2fitusa.com. All of our products are sugar-free, paleo-friendly, gluten-free, non-GMO, and a whole list of other buzzwords. So hop on over to 2fitusa.com. Don't forget to use your promo code FIT1, that's FIT1 at checkout. We highly value and appreciate your feedback, so please leave a review about the products and the podcast at our website, 2fitusa.com, under the podcast and products pages. You can also leave a review on iTunes. Now, if we happen to read your review during one of our podcasts, you'll receive a 1-month free subscription of all 2Fit products. So write something noteworthy. If not, we probably won't read it anyway. So go leave a review, listen to the next episode, and till next time.